All right, guys. So we are moving into the section on loans today. So we're going to talk about some vocab, and then we're going to look at two different ways that they would calculate your monthly payments. So, like, I know Abby just bought a car, so we can kind of look at. Do you know your interest rate by chance? No. Okay. Well, anyway, like, she just bought. Anybody else just buy a car or anything? Anybody else have a car loan? Do you have a car loan? Interesting. Gotcha. Yes. She make like she got a car loan for it. She didn't just pay for it outright. Okay, we'll have to ask her what her interest rate is. Guys, that's what we're going to look at today, though. Is we're going to calculate how the bank actually calculates the payments. So you can kind of get an idea. You're like, oh, maybe thinking in the future, like I want to buy a car. I roughly want to spend this much. So you can kind of look and calculate how much your monthly payments would be. Okay, that's what we're looking for today. But of course, we always start with a lot of vocab. This chapter is loaded with vocab. All right, so first thing, an agreement you must sign when taking out a loan which states the conditions of the loan. What'd you say? Contract. It's actually called a promissory note. Yeah. It's almost, to help you remember this one, promissory note, it's almost like you're making a promise that you're going to pay it back. Because in other words, that's what you're doing, right? You're signing it saying, like, you understand what the terms are of the loan. I understand I have 5 years to pay it back. I understand I'm going to pay this much in interest. I understand my interest rate. I understand they're going to come take my car if I don't pay it back, right? They actually, I think, let you go even a little further than that. It destroys your credit, but yeah, destroys your credit. All right, number two, this person agrees to pay back a loan if the borrower is unable to do so. People without an established credit rating often need a cosigner. So obviously that one is cosigner. So Abby, I'm going to keep coming back to you only because you just recently told me this. Did you say your grandma signed for you? Okay. So in other words, if Abby decides to stop paying, guess whose credit she ruins? Not only her own, but she also will ruin her grandma's. My parents had amazing credit, never missed a payment a day in their life. When my brother got married, wanted to buy a house, so they went ahead and co-signed for him to buy the house. Yeah, he's terrible at making payments on time. So he has destroyed my parents' credit because they signed for him. Now also, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, if they co-sign for you, if he doesn't make the payments, and if he doesn't have any money in his accounts that the bank will just take automatically to pay for it, they'll come after my parents and they can take money out of my parents' account without their permission, because they signed for it. That's all in that promissory note that they signed. So they can start pulling money out of my parents' account to pay for his loan. So they won't sign for him anymore. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And you will destroy your mom's credit as well. That's good. Good girl. All right, so just keep that in mind. Okay, if you're like, I'll just not pay it, right? And they'll pay. No, you destroy your parents' credit or whoever signed for you. So just keep that in mind. Number three, a creditor often requires a borrower to have life insurance that will cover the loan in the event the borrower dies before the loan is paid, and that's just life insurance. Okay. Reason being, let's say you just purchased, I don't know, let's just go with a mortgage, right? You just bought a house, $200,000, and you died the day after. Where do they get their money from? Right? They need that money back. So they will require you to have life insurance, and if you would die, then that insurance will pay for whatever is owed. Okay. Same thing kind of happens like I had a friend, him and his wife, they had kids. Wife was in a car accident. Wife was killed. She had life insurance. Her life insurance paid off the house, even though he's still alive. Her life insurance policy covered and paid off the house, so then he no longer had a house payment he had to worry about. Okay. I mean, he lost his wife, but I mean, that way it's one less thing he has to worry about. All right, number four, this feature allows the borrower to make payments before the due date to reduce the amount of interest, and that is called a prepayment privilege. Obviously, if you wait and pay every month for the whole duration of the loan, you're going to pay interest every single month. But most loans have a prepayment privilege, which means you can pay it off early and not have to pay a penalty for that, right? That would save you interest. The more earlier you can pay things off, the less interest you have to pay on that loan. So like some people, like for us, like our mortgage, we pay an extra, like our mortgage payment, I don't even remember what it is, like whatever it is, like we pay more than that. Like we round up to like the nearest thousand, so that every month we're paying like an extra $150 on our mortgage. It's not required, but it's paying down the principal, so it's not getting charged interest on that. So if you can do that when you set up your loans, if you guys buy a car, if they tell you your car payment's going to be $300 a month, pay $350 a month. Okay, pay a little extra if you can. Helps pay it off. Pays it off faster. Yeah. All right, number 5. This agreement requires borrowers to pay a fee if they wish to pay back an entire loan before the due date, and that is called a prepayment penalty. So you have 2 types of loans that you can get, and that's something that you're going to want to ask before you get a loan. It's always the first question I ask is there a penalty if I pay it off early? So if there's no penalty, if I'm allowed to pay it off early, that's called a prepayment privilege. That's a good thing, right? I'm prepaying it, I'm paying it off early. It's a privilege of letting me do that with no penalty. Now a prepayment penalty is if I pay it off early, I'm in trouble. I'm not allowed to pay it off early because they want all the interest. If I pay it off early, they make less money. I will tell you from my experience and all the loans that I've had throughout my life, they've all had prepayment privilege. I think the bank's pretty much like, I want you to pay it back, and if I can get my money back from you sooner, I'm going to take that, as opposed to people who default on their loans. So from my experience, every loan I've ever had, and I've had quite a few, has been prepayment privilege. I've been okay. They've not charged me a penalty for paying off early. Number 6. This is a voluntary deduction from an employee's paycheck used to pay off debt. If a debtor's employer and the creditor agree, loans can be paid off using this form of electronic transfer, and that's called wage assignment. Your wages, that's how much money you're making, right? An assignment, you are assigning it to automatically pay one of your loans. And you can do that. You can set it up with your employer so that instead of you even getting it in your paycheck, it automatically goes and pays one of your payments for you. Mine's kind of set up that way. My paycheck is split 3 ways. So much of it goes to my savings account, so much goes towards my regular checking, and so much of it every month goes towards a separate account I have just for my mortgage. So that way I kind of feel like I don't have a mortgage payment. I just feel like I don't make as much every paycheck because I just don't ever see it. You know what I mean? It's automatically taken out, put in an account that I don't touch.
Giving it away or
Feeling like I never had it. Because then it doesn't like, I don't feel like, ugh, right? Just don't look. Just don't look. Oh, yeah. You never have it, yeah. And you're like, oh, it'd be nice to have that back. But you're doing a good thing. You're donating. It's good. Okay. Number 7. This is an involuntary. What's involuntary? They don't ask you. An involuntary form of wage assignment, often enforced by court order. The employer deducts money from your paycheck to pay the creditor. And that's wage garnishment. I don't know if you've ever heard that before. People's wages were garnished. That's them being like, all right, for example, my brother fell. My lovely brother, again, fell into this. He stopped paying his student loans. He was unemployed, couldn't afford to pay him anymore, so he just stopped paying them back. So now, instead of coming from his paychecks, they just take his tax return every year. He doesn't get a tax return. They take it every year, the government does, to pay his student loans. Yeah, he got himself in a whole lot of trouble there for a while. Oh, his credit is garbage. That's why right now he is renting a house as opposed to being able to own one. His credit's in the tank. So, yeah, wage garnishment. If you're not paying things and you're defaulting, they're just going to take your money, okay, whether you want them to or not. All right, number 8, the last monthly payment on some loans can be much higher than the previous payments. These high payments are balloon payments. My other brother, I have 2 brothers. I feel like I'm the most with it financially amongst my family here. I'm the youngest, yeah. I'm the youngest. But my other brother, who normally finances are not an issue for him, when they purchased, he built his house. So they had taken a loan for their house to build their house, and then they were told when they borrowed the money But they could make like small payments up front, and then there'd be a giant balloon payment of like, $200,000 at the end, which is normal. People do this a lot of times. And then like when that payment comes due, we'll just take that and we'll just refinance it into another loan for you, right? That was the plan, because they didn't have as much up front, but they were going to have more money later. So like, okay, we'll do a balloon payment. So when that big, huge payment comes due, obviously you don't have 200 grand sitting in your account. We'll refinance that into a different normal 30-year mortgage, right? And then the economy tanked years ago. What do you think happened on that balloon payment? They didn't refinance it. No. It went to the point, and they had that payment. They went to the bank. They're like, all right, we're going to refinance this, right? And they're like, no, we can't. The economy tanked. So my brother had to file for bankruptcy to not lose everything. But what are you going to do, right? So they worked out a deal with the government, whatever. So they're still paying their mortgage payments, but now their credit is in the tank as well, because they had to file bankruptcy to not lose their house. So be careful. This idea scares me, because again, they should have been fine. My sister-in-law actually worked at the bank, but their loan was through, and they still wouldn't do it because the economy was in the tank. So be careful. Try to avoid this. I know they tried to sell us this idea when we bought our house, and I'm like, nope. I want a strict 30-year mortgage. That's it. Nothing changes. I'm good. So be careful. Try to avoid that if you can. Okay, more vocab. You guys vocabbed out yet? Oh, yeah. Yeah. So question, Abby just said, is that 4142 quiz we're going to take, which is the next quiz you're going to have. Will it the whole front page be vocab? Yep. There's a lot of vocab. A lot. All right, so lending institutions, organizations that extend loans, make profit by charging interest. Okay, so all the places you can get money from. So examples, first one's a bank, which is where most people go. Most people go to a bank. There's all different types of banks that you can go to. Yes, yes, sir. I go to Huntington. Whatever. Number two, for members only. Those are credit unions. They usually have lower interest rates. Like I know when we lived in Findlay, we used to bank with a credit union. But obviously once we moved from Findlay, I no longer could bank there. It's nice because you do get usually lower interest rates, but the bad thing is, like if I wanted to get money out of the bank anywhere I was, I had to pay a fee because it's not like their credit union was on every corner. So I ended up switching to Huntington because there's Huntingtons everywhere. Does she? So she probably gets better interest rates maybe on that car she bought. Oh, there you go. Yes, sir. What's number three? Loan shark. It's not really called a loan shark, but you've got an idea. You're the right idea there. So number three, typically give loans to people with low credit scores. They have very high interest rates. It's consumer finance companies. Loan shark, as Joanne called it, but that's not the actual technical name. Consumer finance companies. Same idea. All right, number four, give loans to policyholders. Good interest rates because it's low risk to the company. That is life insurance companies. So for life insurance companies, which I think is a little more rare, they would give a loan if you already have a policy through them, because then they already know that you're kind of covered, right? So that is, to me, I don't know anybody who's ever done that, but it is a thing. Number five, give short-term loans for collateral, typically 30, 60, or 90-day loans. Do you know what that is? Okay. Pawn shops. So anybody ever watch Pawn Stars? I love that show, right? What? It's fake. I'm sure a lot of it is. Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, he probably does now because he's had to research a lot for the show. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be scripted to a point. But anyway, pawn shops, like you can go in, say I want to pawn my car, my truck, whatever, right? Something expensive, my watch. They will give you money for that item, but then where does the item go? Do you get to keep the item? No, it stays at the pawn shop. They hold on to it. Yep. If you don't pay them back within your 30, 60, or 90 days, depending what you set up with them, they get to keep your item because that's their collateral. They need to make sure that they're not losing money to you. Okay. My brother-in-law was in a tight fix, and he hates to ask anybody for help because he's too proud. Drives me nuts. He pawned his van because he needed money for something. Guess who lost his van? The moron. I know, like, would you just come talk to me? I'm like, I can help you. I know, I'm surrounded. Surrounded by, see, it's great I teach in this class, so I have lots of stories to tell you about all the poor decisions in my family. They need to sit in here and learn something, right? Oh my gosh. Gotta love my family. All right, here we go. So one way that they can figure out your monthly payment is in a table. Okay, so there is a formula which we're going to talk about, but a lot of times they put it in a table so it's easier for the average Joe to understand who doesn't understand formulas. So this would be across the top, they're talking about how many years your loan is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10-year loans. And then down the side has different interest rates. Okay, there are 2 columns for the higher interest rates over here. Now, what do you notice, though, is probably the downside to a table? Look at your interest rates. You're not always going to have that type of interest rate. Yeah, like what if you have 6.55%? Is it on the table? It's not on the table, though, right? So the table's great when you have an interest rate that's actually listed, okay? So if you have an interest rate and a term of your loan, how many years, it's listed on the table, use the table. Did everybody hear that? If it's listed on the table, I want you to use the table because sometimes they differ by a few cents. If it's not on the table, then we'll look at what the formula is for that, okay? Now these tables, if you look up here, monthly payments per $1,000 of principal. So for every $1,000 you borrow is what your payment's going to be for every 1,000. So like if you look where it's highlighted here, 2-year loan, 8.5%. So you're right, we just kind of bring those together. So $45.46 per month for every $1,000 that you borrowed. So if I borrowed $2,000, I'd have to multiply that by 2. That makes sense? For every 1,000, that's how much your monthly payment is. So just kind of broke it down step by step here for you. So the table lists it per 1,000 borrowed. So if I want to kind of compute what my monthly payment's going to be, divide the amount you want to borrow by 1,000. Then use your table to kind of look for the year, the percent where it matches. All right. And then multiply the answer that you found by looking at the table by the answer that you got from number 1 when you divided that by 1,000. So let's go ahead and practice. So what is the monthly payment for $4,000 2-year loan with an APR of 8.5%? So what we want to do, first thing is take the amount we want to borrow, 4,000, divide that by 1,000. 4,000 divided by 1,000 is 4. And then we're going to multiply that by the number we find in the table. So the table was 2-year APR of 8.5, right? So it's where that was already highlighted for you, 45, 46. So all we have to do is multiply those together. So 4 times 45, 46. So your monthly payment then would be $181.84. So that's, in a nutshell, how they figure out. The table is very basic. You know, you just pull your numbers right from there. So you can kind of get an idea what type of loan that you guys would be able to afford. If you're looking to buy a car, how many years would you need to have it for? What would your interest rate be? You can figure out what your monthly payments would be. All right, the next part on here. What is the total amount of the loan? How do I figure that out? How do I figure it out? Times 24? 12 times 2? No, you're good. Why 24? Where'd that come from? That's 2 years. 24 months, because I'm paying, that's my monthly payment. I'm going to make 24 payments in 2 years. So how much am I going to pay over the course of my loan? $4,364.16. Next part says, what's your finance charge? In other words, how much are you paying extra that you didn't actually borrow? Obviously, we can probably do this in our head here, but you take the amount of the loan, subtract how much you actually borrowed. So you're paying back $364.16 more than you actually borrowed. So that's your interest, that's your finance charge, whatever you want to think about that. Me too. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Questions so far? Okay. All right. So refer to the table, to the monthly payments, to complete parts A through E. So multi-step questions here. So part A, what is the monthly payment for a $2,400 4-year loan with an APR of 8.25%? What's the first step? Before I do anything with the 8.25, divide. So we take the 2,400 and divide it by 1,000, which is what? 2.4. And then we multiply that by whatever we find in our table. Right? So we're talking 4 years and then 8.25%. Good. So 2.4 times 24.53. So your monthly payment's going to be $58.87. Don't mind my two different eights up there. All right, part B. Sally borrows $75,000 for 5 years at an APR of 6.5%. What is her monthly payment? So again, first thing, we're always going to take our how much we're borrowing and divide that by 1,000, because that's how the table's set up. 75,000 divided by 1,000 is 75, and then multiply by where that matches in our table. So 5 years, 6.5% is 19.57. $75 times 19.57. We're going to have a monthly payment of $1,467.75. Are we understanding how the table works? Good. Part C. What is the total amount of the monthly payments for a $38,000 4-year loan with an APR of 7%? Round to the nearest dollar. What do I do first? Divide. So 38,000 divided by 1,000 is 38. Multiply. So 4 years, 7%. 4 years, 7%. So $23.95. $38 times $23.95. So you're going to have a payment of $910.10. Now be careful. Did I answer the question? What did I find? It's your monthly payment. The question asks, what's the total amount of monthly payments? $48. Good. You were on your way there, Joanne. So multiply that by 48, because that's 4 years, 48 months. So we get $43,684.80. So if it says to round to the nearest dollar, 85. I don't know if you guys looked very closely at your test when I passed them back. A lot of you lost points because you didn't round to what I told you to round to. I said nearest tenth. Some of you went to the hundredth. Round to the nearest dollar, you did not. So some of you lost points for not reading that part. All right, Part D, the total of monthly payments for a 3-year loan is $983, $9,834.30. The APR is 8%. How much was originally borrowed? Whoa, what just happened? Well, go back through your process. We've done numerous ones here in a row. What was the first thing you normally did? You divided by 1,000, right? So you took however much you were borrowing, we'll call it X. You divided by 1,000. And then you took that answer and you multiplied it by what? Nothing. So we divided and then we multiplied by, where did this number come from? It came from the table. 8%, 3 years. 3 years, 8%, 31, 34. And then that should equal, oh wait, that'll give me what? This right here would help me solve for what? The monthly payment. Thank you, Nathan. All right, so if this is talking about the total of the monthly payments, so then I have to multiply this by 36. Now I can set it equal to the amount they gave me. So you really got to stop and think about, okay, what was given to me? What am I talking about? And if you need to, go back to a problem you did prior. Kind of follow the same pattern, right? We took how much was originally borrowed, which is the part I didn't know. We divided by 1,000. Then we took that answer, which I don't know what it is, multiplied it by the number from the table, and then we multiplied by how many months we had it. So now I got to just clean up this equation and solve. Can we do that? So 3134 times 36 divided by 1,000, right? Because remember, this fraction bar means, this fraction bar means divide, right? Okay, so if I multiplied these two together and divided it by 1,000, I get 1.12824. I still have my x equals this. And then what do? Just divide. Divided by 1.12824. So how much was originally borrowed? $8,716.50. Does it make sense? Does it make sense that I borrowed over $8,700 and I ended up paying back a total of $9,800? Does that make sense? Did you pay back more than you borrowed? Yeah, you're going to pay that finance charge. So yeah, it makes sense. And it's not too crazy. It's not off by like tens of thousands of dollars, right? Questions there? Maybe highlight that one, star it, right? If the algebra ones tend to trip you up a little bit. Oh, and then the last one here. Not that I can see it. What is the finance charge for an $8,000 3-year loan with a 7.25% APR? So first thing we have to do, divide by 1,000. So 8,000 divided by 1,000 is 8. And then we always multiply by the charts. I want to be lazy and not move my screen back up there. So 3 years, 7.25%, 30.99. Thank you, John. What's that going to give me? What is this, though? What did I just find? That's your monthly payment, right? That's your monthly payment. Times that by 36, because it's for 3 years. $8,925.12. That's your total payments question asks, what was the finance charge? Then I got to subtract the $8,000 I borrowed. $925.12. So there's my finance charge. Or that's how much extra I had to pay in order for them to let me borrow it. That's how banks make money, right? They let you borrow money for so much, you pay them back, and then you actually pay them back more than you borrowed. So they make money off of you. All right, let's take a break. All right, guys, last part of this, what if the info that you have, either your loan length or the interest rate, is not in the table? You need another option, right? But again, if you can use the table, use the table. Daisy, earth to Daisy. Off the floor, please. All right, so the monthly payment formula is that beautifulness right there. Isn't that pretty? Wow. It's beautiful. Write it down. Write it down. Hey, at least I didn't ask you to come up with the formula. Joanne, get off the floor. Amanda? If you flip to the next page, it's actually written in there. So you can see it right there. All right. This formula, the question just came up, do you have to memorize it? Have I ever asked you to memorize a formula? I didn't ask you to. I said you probably should, and most of you have. But was it on your formula sheet? Yeah. No, I'll get you another formula sheet for this chapter as well. Okay. But yeah, that's your monthly payment formula. Really, that's about the only major formula. You might have one other major formula here, but that's about it. The last chapter, you had 6 of them. Yeah. I have it. I have not graded it. My goal is to get all that miscellaneous grading stuff done today. All right. But do you notice that all the parts and pieces to it is stuff you've already seen before? Right? Monthly payment is what we're solving for this, so M equals. And then you have your principal, interest rate, always write it as a decimal, and then you have your number of years, right? Time is always in years. So you only use this formula when you cannot use the table. Obviously, the table is faster, right? You just take your amount, divide by 1,000, multiply by the number of the table. You're done. So this one's going to take a little more effort on your part. Now, you crazy people with the scientific calculators. Let me think for a minute on this. Because you crazy scientific calculator people, if you don't do this right, it's going to be a hot mess. All right, let me try to think. For crazy calculator people, scientific only, if you're graphing, you're fine the way it sits. But you're going to need parentheses here. I don't think you'll need them there. And you'll need an extra set on the bottom. So I do that, the order of operations. That should do it. An extra set on the top and an extra set on the bottom for scientific people. Again, if you're a graphing calculator, you don't need the extras. Okay? If you didn't quite get this copy down, it is on the next slide. It's at the top. So you can, it's still there for reference. All right, so Mark bought a new car. The total amount he needs to borrow is $28,716. He plans on taking out a 4-year loan and an APR of 5.12%. What is his monthly payment? Why could I not use the table? Well, I'm going to give you a table on your formula sheet, but it's 5.12%. Okay, that's not on the table. So that would be why I'm like, table, nope, can't use it because of that percent. So I'm going to have to go to my formula. So just like last chapter, let's write it out first. So the monthly, so M equals, my principal is the $28,716 times the rate, so it'll be 0.0512 divided by 12. Another parenthesis, 1 plus the rate divided by 12. And then 12 times my time, 4. Again, scientific people, don't write 12 times 4. You'd have to actually put a 48 right there. Okay, just like as always, make sure we're multiplying that together for scientific people. All right, all over 1 plus my rate again, 0.0512 divided by 12. 12 times 4. So again, scientific people, that's a 48 again. And then minus 1. Isn't that pretty? That's beautiful. So graphing calculator people, make sure you do a fraction first, just like last chapter, and then put in the top, put in the bottom. So take a minute, type it all in. Let's make sure we're all on the same track here. The formula will always get the 12s, because yeah, we're talking about monthly payments. Yeah. All right, so once you get all that in there, you should get a monthly payment, $662.87. All right, guys, last part here. Let's go ahead and work through this last one together. Sam has a $16,400 4.5-year loan with an APR of 6.73%. Can you use the table? Why not? 6.73, and it's a 4.5-year loan. Table doesn't set up for 4.5-year loans. All right, so what is the monthly payment for the loan? So first thing you're going to have to do is that big old formula to find that out. Okay, so let's go ahead and set that up first. Definitely helps to see it written in front of you as opposed to just trying to stick it in on the fly. So my principal, 16,400, parenthesis, my rate, 0.0673 over 12, 1 plus 0.0673 over 12. 12 times, going to be 4.5. So again, scientific people, you're going to have to know what 12 times 4.5 is. All right, so again, give it a shot. Type it in. Let's see how we do. Come on, guys, type it in. We want to make sure that we got the calculator part down. If you can't use the calculator, everything else is shot. Thanks, Angela. All right, guys, you should get a monthly payment of $352.85. I'm giving you a minute. I'm just trying to make sure we see that. That's what it should be. Not that far. All right, $352.85. 3 years?
Yeah, 4.5 years.
Right, so 3 years is only 36 months.
Yeah. So it drops down 18 months.
You got that? Oh, okay.
First one right, second one right.
No? Yes, no? You got it. Okay. Part B, if he changes the loan to a 3-year loan, what's the monthly payment? Now, guys, Can you go back into your calculator and just change little bits as opposed to writing it all over again? Yes. So if you're going in, the only thing that you need to change, graphing people, the 4.5 here and here, you would change to a 3. For scientific people, what did you have there before? 54. You will go ahead and change that then to a 36. So just go back into it. For graphing calculators, just arrow back up until it highlights it, hit enter, and it brings it up where you can edit it. So just arrow back over and change that. The 4.5 gets changed to a 3. So this would change it to a payment of $504.36. I mean, does it make sense? If you're going to pay it for less time, your payments will go up. You probably got a parenthesis wrong somewhere. Part C, what's the difference in the monthly payments for the two loans? That should be an easy question, right? 504.36 minus 352.85. Yep, 151.51. Nathan? Not necessarily. Depending on what the bank has, they may offer you different things with the same interest rate. Part D, which loan has the higher finance charge? What's the difference in the finance charge for the two loans? How do you figure out the finance charge? Lauren? Yes, you got it. So for the first one that I did in red, right, my payment was $352.85. So $352.85 per month. For how many months did I do that on the first loan? 54 months. So $352.85 times 54, $19,053.90. And how much did I borrow? 16,400 minus 16,400. So $2,653.90. And then we had the different payment that we did. I wrote mine in blue. So 504.36. How many months did I make that one? 36 months. So 504.36 times 36. 18,156.96. Subtract off the original. So finance charge $1,756.96. Now, guys, I need you to make sure you're recognizing this. Yes, you paid a higher per month payment by paying it off in 3 years, but look how much money you saved in finance charges. So the question asks, which loan has the higher finance charge? The first one. This one's the higher. And then what's the difference between them? We just need to subtract them. So the difference between them, $896.94. So that's how much you save if you can afford the higher payment. You save a lot of money over the long haul. All right, and then do you feel that it's worth paying the higher monthly payment to have the loan finished? You're right, that shouldn't be 6 months earlier. To have it finished earlier. Is it worth it? Yeah, it saves me almost $900. Yeah. Now, if you can't afford $500 and some a month for a payment, then maybe you have to go with the first option for a lesser payment per month. No, don't rob a bank, crazy guy.